rebuilding. The catastrophic failure, a new start. Physically, mentally, our careers, our businesses. Step back, first step, next step. The driver in me just wants to get it done tomorrow. We'll do this, do that, let's move this, where are we at with this? You build some confidence, build some self-esteem, start to feel better about yourself. The Silverback Blueprint Podcast, a show for men over 40. We focus on getting stronger, staying motivated, building discipline, creating a community, and becoming truly happy. Hey guys, welcome to episode 78 of the Silverback Blueprint Podcast. Little pause for dramatic effect there. You can tell the Happy Go coffee and the dark chocolate that Lucas force-fed upon me is entering my bloodstream because I am calm yet energetic, focused and determined. Today, guys, this episode, I want to talk about how we are the filter. You know, one of the things we're always trying to do, and it's part of it as we get older, is to try to handle our stress, deal with our, I think it's safe to say that as we get over 40 and 50, we have anger, we have, rage in the tank, as I like to say it. And I think once we realize that, for me, it's because there's some unresolved things, there's some things I still want to do. I'm not fulfilled yet. There's, I want to create, that life, that ultimate life. I mean, that's what this whole journey is about. This whole purpose, this whole podcast is about that second half. And listen, it's time to get it done because we're halfway through. So let's do it right. And let's stop fucking around. And let's, like I finished the last episode with saying, listen, let's just take action. Let's start now. Right. So we feel this pressure, this, I don't know, we just feel overwhelmed and we feel like we're behind the eight ball. Do you know what I mean? That we need to get going. And that can manifest itself, right? And stress and stuff. So one of the things that we talk about is, dealing with our stress, calming down, meditating, silence. Super, super important stuff overall. But I think what we need to do too is be careful that we don't just try to move away from anything that stresses us out. Right? We don't want to be chased away so that we're in a cabin in the woods by ourselves. And the solution isn't moving away from all the conflict and moving away from the stress, but it's really about filtering and judgment on our part with those outside influences. Right? So if we sit there and we're always trying to move away from the stress, we're not learning how to deal with the stress. And to me, that's what the filter thing is all about. I was reading this, and then we're talking about, it's really about how we process and take in what's happening around us that truly determines our calmness, our steadiness, right? It's not about removing the stress completely because we can't do it. It's impossible. We'll have to live a hermit's life and then that'll have stress. And that doesn't make us better. I'm reading a lot about Stoicism, and it's really about preparing yourself, making yourself better on the inside to stay calm, right? To know what you can work, what you can change and change those things, and to know what you can't and accept them. And understand that a lot of times the outside things that are happening around us have very little to do with us, but we let it get to us, right? So it's really about what kind of filtering are we doing? How are we processing that information that's coming to us? What we see around us. Three of us can be in the room. We can see the same incident happen, and the three of us will process it differently because of how we are inside. All too often we try to control the outside influences around us as we try to work on becoming calmer and steady. And really, we can't control what is beyond our control, right? If we have an irate customer, right, we can't control necessarily that customer, that they're mad. We can't control their state of being mad. We might be able to control what happened and deal with it and stuff like that. Or we come up on a traffic jam, right? And then we get stressed. Why? Well, because we're in a traffic jam and we're in a hurry. Well, why are we in a hurry? Well, because we're late. Well, why are we late? Well, again, right? Or your kid comes home and has a very disappointing report card. Some of those things we just there's things we can't deal. There's nothing we can do about some of it immediately, but we can determine just how it influences us and how we deal with it overall. It's in these cases that deciding what type of filter we're going to have, what kind of judgment we're going to use. When I say judgment, I mean we decide how we're going to react to a situation when there's a situation in front of us. It's up to us if we get angry, right? You can get angry, but not act on that anger. You can sit there and say, okay, there's an issue here and I want to deal with it, but just trying to yell louder than the person yelling at you does the opposite of controlling the situation. In fact, if you're dealing with someone who's being irate with you and you calm the response down and you're calm talking to them, now don't condescend to them, and I don't believe in taking shit from people either. Don't get me wrong. I don't believe the customer's always right and stuff. That's not where I'm going with this, right? But being in business for the last 30 years, I've had customers come in or call and be upset. And now, early on, I would get upset too because I feel that they're accusing me of stuff. And a lot of times they're making stuff up, right? Because they're just trying to get their point across or they're trying to get a resolution that they want. But when I learned this years ago is I would do the opposite. I would stay calm. But I would also draw lines in the sand. And I've had times, I remember one guy was really mad at me. This is years ago when he sold equipment. I had sold an elliptical to his wife the night before. And he comes in the next day and he's like, I want to return this elliptical. I'm like, oh, what's wrong with it? Well, it doesn't work. I'm like, well, what seems to be a problem? He goes, well, this makes noise and that makes noise and stuff like that. And is it under warranty? I go, well, it is, but I think this is something we can just fix here. And he was getting really angry with me. And I told him at one point, I looked at him and I calmly said, listen, sir, I can see that you're upset, but the way you're carrying on isn't going to help. And I won't tolerate it. So we can talk calmly about what the situation is, or, we can just end this conversation now and you can leave. So he calmed down a bit and we're going on about stuff. And it turns out there's really nothing wrong with the elliptical. And I'm like, sure, right? He had it in the car. He showed me what it was. I tightened a bolt for him and fixed it. But then he's going on about stuff and that kind of thing. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with it. He goes, well, I want you to take it back. I go, I'm not taking it back. Right? So he turned around and he left. And as he left, he mumbled. And what he said basically was, God damn it, we can't even fucking afford this. And I heard that. And I said, what did you just say there? He goes, well, nothing. I go, no. I said, you said something. I'd like you to repeat it. He goes, I just can't afford it. He goes, his wife was always buying stuff like that. And I sat there and I could see that truly was the issue and stuff like that. And I remember looking at him, I go, then why didn't you just tell me that in the first place? Why did you come at me like the problem was with the machine, the problem was with me, that kind of stuff? I said, you're just trying to bark and be louder than me. And I'm not the guy to try and be louder and bark louder than and be bigger than, because that's just not going to work for you on many levels. Right? But I said, had you honestly just told me what the problem was, there would have been a better outcome for you at the end. And then we had a really good conversation about stuff. And you know what? I took the elliptical back. I took it back for a few reasons. It was a big seller for us. It was just basically assembled, so I was going to be able to sell it as an assembled unit anyway. But I felt for the guy. And when we had a conversation, he ended up apologizing to me before I even decided I was going to take it back. And he was earnest about it. But it was all because I decided to be calm about the situation. It's probably one of my prouder moments of dealing with somebody. Because like anybody else in business, I need the sale, right? Old Gil needs a sale. You know what I mean? It's got to happen. But at the same time, when he was honest with me and we had a good conversation, I was able to be a lot more empathetic towards him. And I was able to resolve the situation without me getting screwed over. I basically said, listen, I think I can sell this weekend. If I sell it this weekend, I'll give you your money back on the Monday. Happened. I gave him his money back on the Monday. Every once in a while I run into this guy and he always stops and shakes my hand, asks me how things are going. We never speak of it again, right? But it was just really cool how we dealt with that. And that's really what I think is important here. If we can learn to honestly appreciate the situation for what it is and know there's certain things we can control and there's certain things we can't control. And we start getting calm with that. We start becoming confident with that. And we understand that truly it's up to us how we're going to react to things. Right? Now, don't get me wrong. There's times and places sometimes where you have to step the fuck up. Imminent danger, issues and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. There's times where, you've got to step up and you got to deal with stuff. But Those are pretty rare. And they'll rarely even become that if we learn how to stay in control of our own emotions. And I think that's where the calm, the serenity, and the steady comes from. Not because we've cured everything and solved everything for ourselves, but we're just handling things differently. We're filtering it differently. We decide, we judge how we're going to be. So if I judge, I want to be positive, and I want to be kinder, and I want to be empathetic, and I want both sides to win as much as possible when we're dealing with, two people or two situations. If I can honestly take it from that point of view, then I will be calmer. And if it doesn't work out, then you move towards a resolution that needs to be done, right? In the case of, the traffic, we've all been stuck in traffic, and we've all been stuck in traffic where we're late to begin with. So then have that real conversation with yourself. The real reason why I'm angry is the traffic is one thing, but I'm already late. But whose fault is that? 9 times out of 10, it's our own fault because we didn't get up early enough. We didn't get organized enough. We took too long doing something else. We forgot about an appointment because we don't have it in our calendar. Most often, these are the reasons. So that's up to us to be better organized and to be better focused and to value our own time and our own energy and emotions more so we don't put ourselves in that situation. But when you're stuck in that traffic jam, you're stuck in that traffic jam. We've all been it where the guy's trying to pass us to get half a car length ahead, and that kind. Really, he'll get to the destination 4 feet before we do. I don't want to be that guy. It's not like I've got someone bleeding in the back seat and I got to get him to the hospital, right? So make the best of the situation, and that's where the filtering and the judgment comes from. You're stuck in traffic. All right, grab your iPhone, turn it on. Head over to the Silverback Blueprint Podcast, fire that baby up, and listen to an episode. Take the advantage of that time to do something positive. Listen to a podcast, a book on tape, right? You can't change the situation. Don't get worked up about it, right? Email the person, you say, listen, I'm stuck in a traffic jam. I was late to begin with. I'm going to be this late, or I might not make it at all, right? Be responsible. It happens to us, right? But again, it's how we handle things. It's the filtering and the judgment of the situation is what's really going to make us better at becoming calm and steady. When we sit there and we look at that report card, right? We're looking at the result of the report card. But whatever happened on that report card is something that's been happening for weeks and months. So we can sit there and get mad at little Johnny, right? And be disappointed, and that's okay. But we need to understand that, this report card isn't a result of what happened this morning. That report card is a result of what's been happening over the last few weeks and few months. So maybe we need to look at what's happening. What are the study habits? What's the focus? Does little Johnny need help? Do we have rules? Do we have structure? Have we made little Johnny or little Susie aware that it's important to do as good a job as possible? Are we leading by example? Are we telling our kids, hey, you got to study and you got to prepare and stuff like that and you got to be ready? But meanwhile, they look over and we're just Netflixing all the time, right? Monkey see, monkey do, right? Lead from the front. Those things are super important. So those are the things that we need to look at in that situation and say, okay, I am disappointed, but I'm probably more to blame over the situation than little Johnny is, right? And yelling at little Johnny, little Susie, isn't going to make it better. Not in that instant, not at that moment, because it's a bigger issue that's happening. Something else that unfolded over time that led to this. How we handle things, how we filter things, and how we judge, how we decide. We judge if we're going to be positive. We judge if we're going to be negative. We judge if we're going to be angry. I'm not saying we never get angry, but I'm saying we catch ourselves when we get angry and then try to quickly understand, why am I angry? Am I angry because little Johnny got a bad report card, or is it a flashback to when I got a bad report card and I got a fucking boot in the arse? Like, that's what I'm saying, right? Is that there's a lot of things behind things that we need sometimes to stay a little calmer, look at what we're looking at, and look at how we're looking at it. How is it coming through to us? What are we attaching to it, right? And I think from what I'm learning about the inner strength and the inner calm and the inner steadiness is truly about how we control our emotions and how we react to things. That takes practice. That takes raw honesty, right? Not easy to do. We don't, it's not, I don't think it's natural for us at first to want to accept responsibility. Oh, this happened to me when I was 12. I go, yeah, but you're 50 now, right? That was shitty. That may have been shitty. That might have been horrible, but you're 50 now, right? You're responsible for your actions, your thoughts, and how your outcomes are. You're responsible now. Doesn't mitigate or doesn't belittle, incidences that may have happened as we were growing up and things that may have happened. So I like to say, maybe we didn't get hugged enough or we got hugged too often. Who knows what it is? We're all different. We all have different issues. We don't get to this stage on the planet without having had some baggage, right? But some stuff needs to be left in the past. You need to move forward. And I think working on that stuff and being steady and calm on the inside and getting better at that, mastering that is the real key. You see these situations where the shit's hitting the fan everywhere and there's that one or two people that are calm. They stay calm because they're calm on the inside. They're not reacting to the environment. Now, they're not ignoring it, right? I'm not saying hide under the fucking table, right? That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm saying stay calm. Stay calm and evaluate the situation. In fact, the more intense the situation, I think the calmer you stay, the better you're going to navigate through it. You're going to be able to see a potential outcome that you might not be able to see if you're blinded by rage or fear or anger or lust. Not too many situations I think are too stressful that lust is involved. Who knows? Whatever and stuff like that, But at the end of the day, right? Stay calm, stay focused, then take action. And odds are the action you take will be the right action because you were calm and focused and steady. I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating that the more we look at that stuff and how we are on the inside, and sometimes taking a breath before we speak, taking a pause before we say something. Now, for a guy like me who's high I, high D, very driven and very loud and very outspoken, taking that breath sometimes is hard. It's not natural. But that's one of the things I like to work on is that, listen, maybe I don't need to answer that email right now when I want to punch the keyboard with every stroke. What I need to do is breathe, take it in, process my thoughts, maybe take a few notes, and get back to that email later on. I find this is something I learned from my wife, is that the more stressful the situation or the more critical that email is, the more it should be a 24-hour wait period before you even respond. Right? Breathe. Let that, adjust your filter. Figure out why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And that's the hard part about email sometimes, because the intent that was put out is often not the intent that is received. Or maybe it is, but often it's not. We're reading stuff in. We're putting capitals where there's no capitals. We're bolding things where there's no bold, right? We're triple underlining and circle things with arrows when that person, odds are, didn't even mean any of that stuff to happen when they typed that message. But it's how we're perceiving it. It's how we're filtering that message. So I think that's something to me, and one of the things I want to keep working on for me, especially this year, is, how am I processing what's coming at me, right? How am I going to look at it? How am I triaging it? What is it I can do about it now? What is it I can do about it long term? And if I can't do anything about it, how do I just work on just letting it go off my back, right? And that's sometimes hard because sometimes we feel we want that last word. How dare they? I'm like, fuck that, right? Easy to say, but I think like anything else, we get better at it. But we all have a button, and if that button gets touched, gets pressed, that's where we really get challenged, right? It's easy to do it when it's easy. It's to do it when it's tough. It's to do it when all your insides are screaming for you to do something the opposite, but deep down in your gut, the right thing to do, the calm thing to do, and then having the courage to do that right thing. To me, that's the test, and that's the most interesting part about it all, overall. At the end of the day, like I said, we control what we do, we control what we think, and we control how we think about things. So it really is up to us. Guys, that's all I got to say about that for now. Head on over to iTunes. Please leave us a 5-star review. I know I'm like a monotonous record, but it really does help us, guys. If you're getting anything from this, it helps us out a lot. I'm not asking you to give me $1 for every episode. I was listening to a podcast, and they decided to switch to, what's this thing? It's like a fund me, but it's it's kind of like a donation. PayPal, you used to have a donate button, but there's a different word for it now. I don't know what it is. It's a different Who? Yeah, Patreon. Yeah, is that what that's all about? Yeah, so it's the kind of thing, hey, if you like me, send me $2. I don't want your fucking $2, but you know what I'd like? If you're getting anything from this, a 5-star review really helps us. And if you really want to make your life better, head on over to Hostile Gear, grab yourself a kick-ass Hostile hoodie, use the code Silverback at checkout and save 20% off the hoodie. Not 20% removed from the hoodie. You still get the sleeves, you still get the hood, but 20% off the purchase price. Rock that hoodie. And as always, guys, work hard, motherfuckers. And I'll talk to you guys later.